This was supposed to be the perfect camping trip. 5 best friends, 1 weekend in the wilderness, no phones, no noise, just the beauty of nature. We thought it would be the highlight of our year, but it turned into something we'll never forget for all the wrong reasons. The hike started out amazing. The air was crisp. The trees stretched forever and we laughed the entire way. By late afternoon, we found a cozy clearing and stopped to rest. That's when Dave said he was stepping away for a minute. No one thought much of it until the silence was shattered. A scream, raw, guttural, the kind that makes your blood freeze. We ran, and what we found made my stomach turn. Dave was on the ground, thrashing, his leg clamped inside an old rusted bear trap. The jagged metal had chewed through flesh and bone. Panic set in. Jenna screamed. Rob paced helplessly, and Jay tried to work the trap open with trembling hands. Finally, he found a release lever. We pinned Dave down, and with one brutal push, the trap snapped open. His leg was free but shredded, mangled, bleeding fast. We wrapped it as best as we could and abandoned the idea of camping. Dave needed a hospital. Fast. With his arms over our shoulders, we started the long hike back to the car. Rob took point with a pistol in hand, scanning the trees. The woods felt different now. Every step dripped with dread. Then crack! A gunshot. Split the silence. Another one, closer. We hit the ground, dragging Dave behind a log as bullets tore through the trees. Someone was out there, hunting us. Rob fired back blindly, shouting for us to run. Somehow, with adrenaline burning through our veins, we hauled Dave forward. Shots echoed from every direction. We couldn't even tell where they were coming from anymore. Branches whipped our faces. Blood stained the trail, and Dave's screams turned into weak gasps. I could see the faint outline of our car when one last gunshot rang out behind us, then silence. We didn't dare look back. We shoved Dave into the car, Jenna pressing bloody bandages to his leg, and sped off. No cell service, just miles of twisting forest road until we finally reached a hospital. Dave survived. Barely. His leg was torn apart, scarred forever, but he lived. The police asked questions, promised to investigate, but nothing ever came of it. Whoever set that trap, whoever fired those shots, they were never found. And here's the worst part. We still don't know if it was random, or if someone out there was waiting for us. So let me ask you, if you heard a scream in the woods, would you run toward it, or would you save yourself and never look back? I was a U.S. Marshal in the 1980s, and what I'm about to share isn't just another fugitive story. It's the one case that still haunts me nearly 40 years later. It all began one Sunday night in October 1986. My phone rang past 10 p.m., and in my line of work, that only meant one thing: trouble. Be at the federal courthouse 8 a.m. sharp. Task force briefing. That's all my supervisor said. No details. No target name. Nothing. The next morning, the conference room was packed. Marshals, FBI agents, state troopers, local detectives. The chief stepped up and dropped the name: Raymond Ridgway. A killer. 4 homicides across 2 states. 2 federal agents were ambushed and murdered. A man described as cunning, intelligent, and absolutely ruthless. And our orders were clear: apprehend or neutralize, dead or alive. Intel placed him deep in the Pasayten wilderness, near the Canadian border. Remote, snow-covered, and almost impossible to reach. He was believed to be hiding in a cave near Ula Peak. We set out at dawn. The further we hiked, the stranger things became. Dead animals. Everywhere. Birds, squirrels, marmots. Dozens of them scattered across the snow. No wounds. No blood. It was like they'd just fallen from the sky. And the deeper we climbed, the more we saw. When we radioed the other teams, their answer chilled me. Same thing on the east flank. Dozens of them. No sign of cause. But orders were orders. We pressed on. By midday, we reached the cave. The perfect hideout. Weapons raised, we moved in. The air was damp, sour, and there at the very back sat Ridgway, rocking back and forth, face hidden. We shouted commands. No reaction. One of my deputies reached out to grab his shoulder, and instantly collapsed, convulsing on the ground. I'll never forget it. His body jerked violently, foam at his lips, eyes wide with terror. And Ridgway? He finally lifted his head and smiled. We cuffed him, dragged him out, and airlifted our deputy to a hospital. He was in a coma for a week. When he woke up, he remembered nothing. Not the hike, not the cave, not Ridgway. Nothing. The official reports brushed it all aside. The animals, likely hunted for food. The seizure? A coincidence. Case closed. But I was there. I smelled the air in that cave. I saw those animals lying untouched in the snow, and I watched my deputy collapse the second he touched Ridgeway. We caught the fugitive, but what we walked into that day, that was something else. Even after 4 decades, it gnaws at me, because sometimes the government doesn't just protect us from dangerous people, it protects us from dangerous truths. So I'll ask you, if you saw dozens of animals drop dead on a mountain trail, would you keep climbing? My name's Cal. I work as a forestry technician in Alaska's Tongass National Forest, and out here, surrounded by 17 million acres of wilderness, I've seen storms, bears, and isolation that would break most people, but only once did I experience true terror. It happened late last summer. I'd been out all day 12 miles north of the ranger station marking trees and collecting samples. Exhausted, muddy, and hungry, I stopped at a creek to eat. That's when I heard it. At first I thought it was a bear until I realized bears don't move like this. Branches snapped, thick ones. Each step deliberate, heavy, like something massive was walking upright. The sound was coming closer, but I couldn't see a thing. I stood up, grabbed my bear spray, and yelled into the trees, "Hey, get out of here!" Nothing. No growl, no movement, just that relentless rhythm, and then the smell hit me. It wasn't musk or fur or even rot. It was sharp, metallic, sour, like sweat gone bad. The stench rolled over me and my stomach dropped. Whatever this was, it wasn't a bear. I backed away slowly, eyes locked on the tree line, but the sound kept following. 40 yards, then 30, then closer. Finally, I broke. I ran. I don't even remember deciding to. My body just bolted, crashing down the trail, heart hammering, lungs burning. And even when I stopped half a mile later, bent over gasping, the sound was gone. The forest was silent, too silent. That night in my cabin, every creak made me sit up in bed. I barely slept, and even now, I can still hear those snaps in my head, feel the ground tremble under each step. I told one of the older techs, Jim. He's been out here decades, seen everything. I thought maybe he'd have an answer, but when I finished, he just stared at me not with disbelief but with something worse, pity and fear. He told me long days can play tricks on a man's mind, but I could see it in his eyes. He knew I wasn't making it up. Since then, I've avoided that creek. I stay close to the station, but no matter how far I keep, I can't shake the thought. It's still out there, somewhere in the Tongass, moving through the trees. And if you ever heard that sound, would you stand your ground or would you run? It was late summer 1992. I had somehow convinced my girlfriend Sarah to join me on a hike near Mount Rainier. She wasn't the outdoorsy type, but she came along anyway. Just a simple planner, 6-mile trail, water, sandwiches, a map, nothing more. The first hour felt peaceful. A dirt path beneath towering trees, cool air brushing against our skin, the forest alive only with the distant chirp of birds. But then the trail changed. It narrowed, twisting deeper into the woods where shadows stretched longer and silence pressed heavier. We crossed a creek slipping on slick stones. Sarah laughed nervously when she almost fell. That laugh, it's something I'd cling to later. By noon, we stopped for lunch on a fallen log, but as we moved on, the forest seemed different. Less welcoming, more watchful. Sarah began lagging behind. I slowed for her, smiling, ready to suggest we turn back. That's when it happened. Her footsteps stopped. Her voice broke the silence. Low. Urgent. Oh my God. I turned. She stood frozen, staring into the trees. Color drained from her face. I followed her gaze and my heart nearly stopped. Just 20 feet off the trail stood a massive tree, and inside that tree was a deer, not beside it, not leaning against it. Inside it, a full-grown buck, antlers heavy, its body fused into the trunk, as though the wood had swallowed it whole. The front half protruded on one side, lifeless eyes dangling downward. The hind legs hung limp from the other, and the bark around it, perfectly smooth, seamless, as though the tree had grown that way. Impossible. Sarah clutched my arm so tightly it hurt. "What the hell is that?" she whispered. I had no answer. I stepped closer, drawn by something I couldn't explain. My skin crawled, but my mind screamed for answers. No broken bark, no torn flesh, no blood. The body looked like fresh flies buzzing, but no decay, no reason, no logic. I reached out. My fingertips brushed the wood. Normal, ordinary, until you looked up and saw the impossible embedded within it. "Get back!" Sarah's voice cracked, but I couldn't stop. I circled the trunk, seeing the same seamless fusion on the other side. No wound, no violence, just wrong, and that's when the fear hit me. Not the fear of what I saw, but the fear of what it meant. The forest had gone silent. No birds. No wind. Only our breathing. It felt like the trees themselves were holding their breath, watching us. "We need to go," Sarah said, her eyes wide, her face pale. This time I didn't argue. We left without looking back, but the image never left me. A deer half in, half out of a tree burned forever into my mind. On the drive home, we didn't speak a word. At her doorstep, Sarah whispered, "We're never talking about this again." And we didn't. Not to each other. Not to anyone. But even now, decades later, sometimes late at night, I still see it. That impossible fusion of flesh and wood. And I feel it again, that cold grip around my neck, reminding me it was real. Last year, I decided to take a solo trip deep into the Everglades, way out in the MSD wilderness of Florida. It was late July, the sun heavy, the air thick, and I'd been hiking for hours alone, with nothing but my thoughts. At first it was faint, a low hum almost like a distant lawnmower. Insects are common out there, sure, but this sound was different. It grew louder, deeper, a steady vibration that pressed against my chest like a bass speaker. I scanned the trees, the brush, even the empty sky. Nothing, only that rising drone. And then I saw it. Bursting from the tree line circling above me was a beetle. Not just any beetle. This thing was the size of a football. I froze, my neck craning as its wings churned the air. The noise it made was like a swarm of hornets, but deeper, darker, unnatural. Its shell glistened dark green, segmented and armored, with hooked legs dangling as it hovered just 10 feet overhead. Something that big shouldn't have been able to fly, and yet it did. At first I wasn't scared. Surprised, yes, but I'd dealt with wildlife before: snakes, bears, even mountain lions. But this wasn't a predator I recognized. This wasn't even normal. I tried to walk away. That's when the hum shifted, dropped lower. My gut tightened. I glanced up. The beetle was descending. It stopped barely a foot from my face, wings thrashing, and its eyes locked on mine. Huge, black, glossy. They swallowed half its head, two unblinking pools of ink that didn't just look at me. They studied me, and for the first time that day, I felt real fear. Even in the Florida heat, my blood ran cold. I couldn't move. I couldn't blink. I could only stare into those endless black eyes, feeling a terrible awareness behind them. Intelligence. Intent. Then, without warning, it darted away, vanishing into the trees. I stood there trembling, my heart hammering against my ribs. I told myself it was just a bug, nothing more. But the hike didn't feel the same after that. I couldn't stop listening to the hum. I couldn't shake those eyes from my mind. That night, I set up camp, but I couldn't eat, couldn't relax. When I finally tried to sleep, the dreams came of the beetle. The buzzing filled my head, its eyes floating in the dark, endless, pulling me under until I woke up gasping, choking for air. At dawn, I didn't hesitate. I packed up and bolted, 6 miles back to my car, my legs burning, my pack crushing my shoulders, my ears straining for even a hint of that hum. Every gust of wind, every insect wing, I swore it was there. When I finally reached the parking lot, my car was the only one there. I slammed my gear into the trunk, locked the doors before I even breathed, and tore out of there. 2 hours of winding roads, checking the rearview mirror every 30 seconds, half expecting to see that massive beetle pacing me in the sky. I tried to rationalize it. I told myself maybe it wasn't that big. Maybe I was just tired, hallucinating. But deep down I knew. Even at home, in the safety of my bed, those eyes followed me. Black, bottomless, a knowing stare that still haunts me. I haven't gone hiking there since. My gear just sits in the garage gathering dust. The city feels safer now because out there something's waiting, and I can still hear it, that low bone-rattling hum.